The Tyler Van Dyke era at the University of Miami is coming to an end. Where do the Miami Hurricanes go from here?
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
A new chapter begins for Tyler Van Dyke, and for us here on Locked On Canes, crazy transfer portal season is getting underway. If you thought business wasn't going to pick up until December 4th, when the portal officially opens, you were mistaken. Even I didn't expect so many names across the country and at Miami to already be putting themselves in the transfer portal, or at least announcing their intentions to answer the portal or to enter the portal so early. But it's happening. The whirlwind has begun. The transfer portal is officially opening on December 4th. We got National Signing Day coming up on December 20th. So the month of December is going to be insane, right? I was listening to Mario Cristobal the other day on his morning radio spot on the Joe Rose Show on Monday, and Cristobal was like, yeah, you know what? I'm not expecting to get much sleep this month. You know, Cristobal is notorious for only sleeping a few hours a night anyway, but in the month of December, it is all cafecito. It is all 24/7. By the way, I am Alex Donno, your host. I'm a University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet, and contributor to allhurricanes.com. Good morning, and thank you so much for making this live episode of Locked On Canes your first listen today. We are available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. The news came down around 7:30, 8 p.m. last night. Matt Zenitz was the first to report it, that Miami Hurricanes, now former starting quarterback Tyler Van Dyke, is entering the transfer portal. Few of you were surprised or disappointed. I was not surprised. I think when you look at the last two seasons for Van Dyke, not all of it was his fault, right? He had to live through the Josh Gaddis era and a really poor offensive line in 2022, the same way we all did. 2023, the O-line was much better. The overall talent level was better. He was playing through a lot of injuries, but Van Dyke was so inconsistent the past couple of years. So inconsistent, was a roller coaster of emotions on his part, was a roller coaster with the fan base and the way he was received. And to me, when Van Dyke got benched after that North Carolina State game, when the starting lineups came out for Florida State and we figured out Emory Williams, they were turning to the true freshman, and Tyler Van Dyke was benched. At that point, that's when I was 99.9% sure Van Dyke is not going to be back next year. Now, the roller coaster only continued from that point forward, because even though Miami turned the page to Emory Williams, and I don't believe they would have gone back to Van Dyke unless they had to, Miami turned the page to Emory Williams. He breaks his arm right at the end of that game, and then Miami has to go back to Van Dyke, and then full freaking credit to Tyler, right? You know, you can complain about Van Dyke and his inconsistencies all you want to, but I give him so much credit for the way he finished the season. Played so well against Louisville. Was not his fault or the offense's fault, really, that Miami lost that game. That was more on the defense and on some coaching decisions. And then Van Dyke played lights out against Boston College, right? Through, I think, 3 touchdowns or 4 touchdowns to 0 interceptions over his final 2 games in a Miami Hurricanes uniform. And in those final 2 games, you know, he definitely gave you flashes on what the Shannon Dawson offense can look like with consistent quarterback play and with a real field general on the field, because Van Dyke looked like a field general for those final couple of games. So it gives you some hope for the Shannon Dawson offense. And then for Tyler Van Dyke, for him, I want the best for him, okay? Now, obviously, Hurricanes fans would be a little pissed off if Van Dyke goes somewhere. He's going to go somewhere, obviously, in the portal. And if he just plays lights out next year, I know some Hurricanes fans will be like, wait, we should have kept this guy. We should have given him another chance here, but I hope he does well because, it's his dream to play in the National Football League someday. Obviously, he didn't do his draft stock any favors this year, would not be drafted. That's why he's going to be taking his talent somewhere else. So I think the big questions are with Tyler Van Dyke entering the portal. And by the way, rest in peace to our pal War Beast. We still miss him. The live chat is not the same without War Beast. So you got a couple questions now, long-term and short-term at the quarterback position with Tyler Van Dyke taking his talents into the transfer portal. What's going to happen in the bowl game? Miami is going to be in a yet-to-be-determined bowl game, right? We've heard some rumors about the Military Bowl, a lot of rumors about the Sun Bowl, which is where Miami seems to end up every few years back in El Paso. But Van Dyke, obviously not going to play in the bowl game. He's hitting the portal. Emory Williams, not playing in the bowl game. He's recovering from a broken left arm. Is Jacurri Brown definitely staying? He's not announced any intentions to hit the portal at this time. And here's the latest on Jacurri Brown. I give credit on this report to David Lake of Inside the U. Good stuff, David, who's a great dude. David Lake said this morning, it is my understanding that Jacurri Brown is leaning toward playing in the TBD bowl game that Miami will play in December. Brown will meet with the UM staff soon, and if those talks are productive, he will play the bowl. The speculation that Brown was going to enter the portal before the bowl was played was never true, he said. So you can read a lot into that report, all right? By the way, what's up to our guy, VLKV? Welcome in. What's going on, Katie? Katie is not a big fan of Mario Cristobal, as you can see. What's going on, everybody? So, all right. So there's a lot of layers to that Jacurri Brown report, right? He's leaning towards staying at least through the bowl game. Obviously, Miami's got an emergency at quarterback for the bowl game because if Jacurri Brown doesn't stick around for the bowl, you're talking about walk-ons. You're talking about Ripley Luna, possibly a true freshman walk-on quarterback. I get conflicting reports as to whether fifth-year walk-on quarterback Jaden George is still with the team or not. I think, as far as I know, he is. Somebody tried to tell me that he isn't with the team anymore, but he would have been your most experienced walk-on if he was there. But Jacurri Brown leaning towards playing in the bowl game, and that doesn't guarantee you, because remember, there's multiple times you can enter the transfer portal. He could announce the day after the bowl game he's going into the portal. The portal reopens in the spring. He could announce it then. I hope he never announces he's hitting the portal. I want Jacurri Brown to stay because I think he's got so much potential. I think you're talking depth for the quarterback room. I wouldn't blame him if he leaves, though, because the understanding, I think Miami's going to go into the portal to try to grab a proven, experienced veteran quarterback. And if Miami does that, and I think they're planning on doing something like that, obviously, if you're Jacurri, you look at that and say, okay, am I not going to get my opportunity here? Like, entering my third year, this was his second year, redshirted this year. Whether he plays in the bowl game or not, irrelevant for the red shirt. The red shirt is preserved, so he can play in the bowl game without losing any sort of eligibility. But he might look at it, say, entering my third year, they're bringing in a veteran. I'm not really going to get a full opportunity here to start. Maybe I take my talent somewhere else. It might also depend on how well he plays in the bowl game coming up. That could be his audition on multiple fronts. That could be Jacurri Brown's audition to improve his stock at Miami, or it could be his audition to improve his stock somewhere else. But I hope he stays. I like Jacurri a lot. There's a ton of unreached potential. And speaking on that, I'd love to hear from you guys. How are you going to remember the Tyler Van Dyke era at the University of Miami? How are you going to remember it? How will TVD be remembered to you? Because for me, and I don't mean this in a completely bad way or throwing shade or anything like that, but I'm just going to remember inconsistency, right? And that's not all bad, because guess what? When TVD was at his best, right? You remember as a redshirt freshman under Rhett Lashley, those final 6 games of the season where he threw for at least 300 yards and at least 3 touchdowns in all of those games. The way he played, even in some of Miami's losses, he played really well. He put up like 496 yards against North Carolina last year. As I mentioned, he played really well against Boston College. this year really well against Louisville. He played really well against Texas A&M in Miami's win earlier this season. But then the problem was you had the good performances, and then you also had the NC State performance this year, the Georgia Tech, the Virginia. He had some, poor performances mixed in with some good ones last year. So I'm just going to remember inconsistency. Like, I'm going to remember a quarterback that when Van Dyke was on, when Van Dyke was Van Dimes, looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the country. But when Van Dyke was off, when he wasn't Van Dimes and he was just Tyler, you were looking at, a guy who couldn't really read a defense at times, would throw way too many turnovers. And I don't know, like, it's such a roller coaster. When things were on, so great. When things were off, you're like, how is this the same guy? Like, how is this the same guy that beat Texas A&M and now he's throwing 3 interceptions against Georgia Tech? So I'm going to remember some unreached consistency, some unreached potential, right? And maybe he'll find that somewhere else, right? But I think, honestly, it was the right thing for both sides to move on, right? I'm a longtime Miami Dolphins fan, in addition to being a Hurricanes guy, right? And this feels like the end of the Ryan Tannehill era with the Miami Dolphins, where you're like, this guy's still pretty good. Maybe he could still be, a really productive quarterback who could get you into the playoffs, but it's just time to move on. Like, both sides have been through so many bumps in the road. Maybe it's better for him to have a change of scenery. He did pretty well in Tennessee after he left Miami. He's still hanging around, but it's time for both sides to turn the page to a new chapter, right? So that's kind of the way that I feel about Van Dyke, that it's, he was too inconsistent for Miami to roll with him for another year. And then on Van Dyke's side, he's been through the whole range of ups and downs in Miami. It's probably time for him to find a fresh change of scenery somewhere else. So it's not just Tyler Van Dyke, by the way, who's already given his intentions to enter the transfer portal. Miami is going to be losing, and some of these make me real sad. Don Chaney Jr. is going to be hitting the portal. Corey Flagg is going to be hitting the portal. Jahfari Harvey is going to be leaving Miami in the portal. I want to talk about quarterback options to replace Van Dyke, and I want to talk about the other players who are leaving and how much depth there is behind them. So you know what you want to do, man? You want to keep it locked right here, because we are only getting started on this episode of Locked On Canes. I can't say enough nice things about FanDuel, guys. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel, guys. I'm telling you, this is so great. Who's just blowing up my phone now? I'm trying to talk here on Locked On Canes. My phone's ringing. I think it's my father calling me. He should know better. Guys, $150 if your team wins at FanDuel. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. I think my father was calling me because he wanted that code to sign up at FanDuel. He's a huge fan. FanDuel.com/lockedoncollege. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. We are also proudly brought to you by the great folks at LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to have as many top-tier candidates as possible to interview. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Guys, I have found jobs through LinkedIn Jobs. I know this works. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn is a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many qualified candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, it's quick, and it's easy. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes this special live transfer portal edition. Your first listen today. We are available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube. So the Tyler Van Dyke era at Miami is coming to an end. He is entering the transfer portal. And honestly, guys, I don't know where he might end up or even like what like caliber of program he might end up in. Like a lot of people talk about SMU with Rhett Lashley. That kind of depends on what their quarterback, who's got 2 or 3 more years of eligibility, if he decides to stay or not. I could see him, if he doesn't end up at a top tier program, I could see him going to maybe someplace like UConn to be closer to home. He's from that area, but I don't know. I know a year ago at this time, there were some big time programs, including the Alabama Crimson Tide, who kicked the tires on Tyler Van Dyke. I don't think his stock is as high now as it was a year ago. So you got to wonder. And, I don't necessarily disagree with Kevin, who says Lashley would make TVD a Heisman contender. Like he had Van Dyke putting up like Heisman numbers for half a season as a redshirt freshman that year. So you never know with that. So here's, I've been monitoring the portal, which again, it's going nuts, and we're not even technically at the beginning yet, guys, because it's November 28th. The portal doesn't even officially open until December 4th. So what's happening the last couple of days is certain players they're already announcing that they're gonna hit the portal, and I'm sure you're gonna get more announcements like that in the coming days. So one of the most recent high-profile quarterbacks who's announced he's going to be hitting the transfer portal is Kansas State's Will Howard. Will Howard is entering the portal. This is an interesting prospect to me, and I mean, prospect is an experienced guy, but this is an interesting option to me. He's not necessarily my favorite, but as a passer, decent numbers. 61.3% of his passes completed for 2,643 yards this year with 24 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. But what makes Howard intriguing to me, this is Will Howard of Kansas State, is he can move, right? This past season, he recorded 364 rushing yards and 9 ground touchdowns. So 33 total touchdowns, 24 through the air, 9 on the ground. So like if you're talking about players that, can offer more of a dual threat, which is obviously something Tyler Van Dyke did not offer. It's something Emory Williams does not offer. Will Howard is a guy who can be a little bit more mobile. Someone says y'all throwing out quarterback names like Mario and the staff don't know. Yeah, Stan. I hope they're 10 steps ahead of us on this, man. Mario, in case you're watching this, maybe you have no idea which quarterbacks are out there. Watch Locked On Canes. We'll let you know what your big board should look like. This is not a bad idea by Katie that Mississippi State could be a good fit for Tyler Van Dyke. Yeah, because you're right. Mississippi State is losing their quarterback, which I think could be an option for Miami, and Tyler Van Dyke is on the market now. So Will Rogers is the quarterback from Mississippi State. He announced right after the Egg Bowl, he announced he's hitting the portal. We talked about him over the last couple of days. He's the second all-time leading passer in SEC history. He does have a common lineage to Shannon Dawson because Will Rogers, he came up in Mike Leach's air raid, and Mike Leach and Shannon Dawson come from the same air raid coaching tree from Hal Mumme. So he's already comfortable with that type of offense and that type of terminology. So that could be a fit there. And then somebody pointed this out. For those who follow the social media clues, apparently Mario Cristobal is following Will Rogers on Twitter, or X, if you prefer. So if you're looking for clues out there, apparently Mario Cristobal is already following Will Rogers from Mississippi State on social media. So obviously that's somebody Miami has got to kick the tires on. And honestly, I think a guy who could be possibly the best veteran option, but he's not in the portal, at least not yet, is Michael Pratt from Tulane. So we're watching Pratt because I definitely don't think he's staying at Tulane, and he's probably not going to announce anything, by the way, guys, until after the AAC championship game, because he's leading the Green Wave to a conference title game, which I would imagine happens probably on Friday or Saturday of this week. So don't expect him to announce anything until after that. But with Pratt, he has accepted a Senior Bowl invite. Doesn't mean he has to show up. So he's accepted a Senior Bowl invite, which means he's at least kicking the tires on the idea of trying to go pro. I don't know how high his draft stock actually would be. I think he could benefit from playing at a Power 5 team for a year to try to raise that draft stock even higher. So we're kind of watching Pratt from Pratt from Tulane to see if he ends up opting out of his Senior Bowl invite and maybe hitting the transfer portal. I think somebody like that could be a potential quality option for Miami. And yeah, if you're talking about a long-term quarterback, because a lot of the names that we mentioned are guys who could come in probably for a year in the transfer portal, which I think, guys, it's super important because I look at the roster Miami is building. If you get the right quarterback fit for 2024, this is a team to me that can absolutely contend for an ACC championship. And then if you're contending for an ACC title, who knows? Like, you might be able to get into that mix for college football playoff. I think Miami's got a really good roster. You're obviously losing some guys, specifically Javion Cohen from your offensive line. I hope Matt Lee stays. I think that is an option for him if he does want to stay, but you're losing Javion Cohen. You do still have a ton of talent along your offensive line. The defensive line, there are concerns at tackle, whereas the defensive end depth is through the roof. I think the linebackers, despite, we'll talk about Corey Flagg, who's hitting the transfer portal, linebacker core is still really good. I think Miami's going to be okay at cornerback. Safety is going to be a bigger question mark because, guys, I'm just telling you right now, the buzz continues to grow. Do not be surprised whatsoever over the next couple days if you see both Cam Kinchens and James Williams announce their intention to enter the NFL draft. That's the way that this is trending. It's not happened yet. Nothing's for sure. But I think we're going to lose both of Miami's top safeties. I think Williams and Kinchens will both be entering the NFL draft. So safety is another area you got to address in the transfer portal. You do have some young talent already on the roster, but not nearly enough. Like, hopefully Markeith Williams stays, and Caleb Spencer, who's going to be hitting his true sophomore year, is going to be really good. Miami has some good recruits coming in. We talked yesterday about Zaquan Patterson. Zaquan Patterson might end up playing a lot as a true freshman. I think he can handle it. He's a stud out of Chaminade Madonna, but I think Miami's safety room is going to be really, really young. So you got to go heavily into the transfer portal there as well. So you've got, all right, we'll talk about the other players who are leaving. And guys, if you're in here, we're live, by the way. So the dude 67, I hope you're wrong. So if Brown, and by the way, we talked about Jacurri Brown at the top of the episode. The latest on Jacurri Brown, according to David Lake from Inside the U. Let me read this for you again for those stragglers who joined us late. David Lake reports, it is my understanding that Jacurri Brown is leaning toward playing in Miami's bowl game. Brown will meet with the staff soon, and if those talks are productive, he will play in the bowl. The speculation that Brown was going to enter the portal before the bowl was played was never true. So I hope he stays long-term. So what that would mean is Jacurri Brown potentially could play in the bowl game because Miami has a real emergency at quarterback with Tyler Van Dyke leaving. Emory Williams hurt. You got nobody else on scholarship, right? So if Brown plays in the bowl game, doesn't necessarily mean he stays beyond the bowl game. He can hit the portal afterwards, late December or in the spring. But I hope he sticks around. But that's the latest on Brown. For those of you who are wondering, hey, is Miami going to have any quarterback to play in the bowl game? Or are there going to be no quarterbacks on the roster? It looks like Jacurri Brown will probably be the quarterback for the bowl game. And I'm super excited for that, right? I don't know who Miami's going to play against in unnamed bowl game, but if Brown can go off and Miami can win that game with Brown under center, that would get people would get people very excited. And, yeah, he wants to play, dude. He wants to play next month. He wants to play long-term. All right, we'll talk about other Miami players entering the transfer portal because it wasn't just Tyler Van Dyke. So keep it locked right here. We are live on YouTube right here on Locked On Canes. And, man, I'm going to be live on Prize Picks later today. Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in all of North America. The easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you watch the winnings roll in, guys. And with basketball season here as well, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League. You can go cross sport. Guys, at Prize Picks, you can win 25x your money. When you select those 2 to 6 players and go more or less, if you get 6 predictions correct, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a couple of clicks. It is the most fun you're going to have this football and basketball season. And Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy, so your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code, all one word, LockedOnCollege for that first deposit match up to $100. It truly is daily fantasy sports made easy. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen. Thank you so much. Somebody says Emory Williams is injury prone. I mean, what he broke his arm extending for a first down. It's one injury. I don't know what you're talking. Injury prone? The guy, Tyler Van Dyke, I will give you, is injury prone, right? Because you've had it happen multiple times over multiple seasons. I don't know if you can call Emory Williams injury prone. A lot of people are asking about Connor Wigman. He's very high on my wish list. Very high. We don't know if he's hitting the port. So Mike Elko, at least Texas A&M, at least now they know who their next coach is going to be. They're poaching Elko from Duke. So I would imagine priority, well, maybe not priority number one, but very close to priority number one for Mike Elko is going to be having to sit down with Connor Wegman to see what he wants to do long-term and kind of lay out his plan for him. I also got to wonder, with Elko leaving Duke for Texas A&M, is he going to try to bring Riley Leonard with him? Is that on the table for him? Because and that Duke would be gutted. Losing Elko is a big enough hit. If they lose Riley, who's like their entire team, like that guy is Mr. Everything for them. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it's definitely something that I'm watching out for. Oh, and James, I like what you say, James. If Jacurri Brown plays, Dawson will show us his true value as a play caller. The playbook would look a lot different, and I think it'd be a nice challenge over the next few weeks for Shannon Dawson to be able to get a playbook ready that features a running quarter. Wow, the Woods says early Christmas gift, DVD leaving. I mean, listen, let me say this about Tyler Van Dyke. One of the nicest young men I've ever covered. Always professional, good teammate. Like he wasn't cocky, he wasn't obnoxious, he wasn't arrogant, he wasn't rude to anybody, never got in trouble on or off the field. You can say what you want to about his inconsistencies on the field. Really, really nice guy. Really nice guy. Junior Jackson is asking for me to give some picks. I hear you do some winning. I've actually been doing pretty well on FanDuel and Prize Picks in recent weeks. It's only Tuesday, so I don't really have like my NFL picks in order for this coming weekend or my conference championship picks. So I will, throughout the week, I will give you guys some picks on what we're going to look at this weekend on FanDuel and Prize Picks. So I will try to do that. All right, so the Hurricanes are also losing Don Chaney Jr. This one was like a gut punch. I'm not surprised because there's so much depth in Miami's running back room. Chaney wants to play, okay? It was so nice to see Don Chaney healthy this year after so many issues. Basically missed the previous 2 years with injury. It was so nice to see him back. And he had some really good games this year. I thought Chaney, his best games were against Georgia Tech. He was over 100 yards. Florida State, he was really good in the first half of that game. I think he was over 100 yards or close to it against Clemson. And he played really well against Bethune-Cookman, and that was early in the season. The Bethune-Cookman game was like, yes, Chaney is back. Chaney is out there picking up yards. That was like our first time in the past 2 years, 3 years, really seeing Chaney run a lot again. So he had some really good games for Miami this year, and I wish him nothing but the best. And I'm so sorry to see him go because he's a true South Floridian, and Don Chaney loves Miami. He loves Miami, but I know he wants more playing time. Miami's running back room, one of the deepest on the team. You've got Fletcher, Allen, both coming back. Chris Johnson, I think, is going to have a bigger role next year. Hopefully, Trevante Citizen coming back. We'll have to see what happens. I don't have any reason to believe he's leaving, but I also don't have any reason to believe he's staying. So we'll see what happens. Maybe Henry Parrish coming back. We'll see what happens with him. Miami's bringing in Kevin Riley and Chris Wheatley-Humphrey in recruiting. There's been some buzz about Miami possibly flipping Jordan Lyle, the St. Thomas Aquinas, back. He's committed to Ohio State. Miami wants him. So running back is so loaded. Like, you can kind of understand if certain guys are like, hey, I just want to go somewhere else and play. I think that's the issue with Chaney. But man, I love Don Chaney so much. And this is a guy, no matter, as long as he doesn't go to Florida State or Florida, I will support him wherever if he goes to Florida State or Florida, I want him to stay healthy, but get like 0 yards. Right. But if he goes anywhere else that's not a rival, I will continue to root for Don Chaney because he's such a great guy. Speaking of great guys, Corey Flagg Jr. hits the portal. What a season he had. What a season. Corey Flagg is someone who used to take so much grief from our fan base. He shut up all the doubters this past year. Corey Flagg ranked top 15 on the team this year in Pro Football Focus grades, was one of Miami's top 15 players overall. Sealed that game against Clemson in that play, tackling Klubnik for a loss on 4th down. I will never forget that play in overtime. He made so many big tackles this year. He's a true professional, Corey Flagg. Like, this guy, he's a great teammate because he sets such a great example for hard work. No shenanigans with that dude whatsoever. Studies film like a maniac, and he's just really mature, great leader, really underrated player. So I wish Corey Flagg the best. And Jahfari Harvey, another one. What a great player to cover. He's hitting the portal, Miami's defensive end. And that is another area where Miami has a lot of depth. Ruben Bain obviously coming on really, really strong. Jaden Wayne is going to be a great one in the future. Miami's got a big class of true freshman edge rushers coming in. Not that would have necessarily affected Harvey, but at some point, Marquise Lightfoot is going to be a stud. Miami's got a good class coming in. And with Jahfari Harvey, this dude is going to be sought after. He's already being sought after because I know some folks with some close ties or connections to the Notre Dame program, and apparently Notre Dame very interested in Jahfari Harvey, and he's probably going to visit South Bend very soon. So do not be surprised. He's going to have other suitors too, but do not be. Maybe he decides, I don't want to go to a miserable place where winter happens and life is terrible. But I know Notre Dame is interested in him, so keep your eye out on the Fighting Irish for him. And I'm with you, Chris. I wouldn't say mad because I wish him the best, but I am sad that Corey Flagg is leaving. Thank you so much, dude. 67. He says, biggest needs besides quarterback for next season. Love the show, bro. I love you, dude. 67. Biggest needs. Quarterback, as you said. Defensive tackle is a massive one. Safety is going to be a massive need because I will reiterate, I am expecting both James Williams and Cam Kinchins to declare for the NFL. It hasn't happened yet. I hope it doesn't happen because I'm selfish. I want these guys to stay, but I am expecting James and Cam to both declare for the NFL draft. So safety is up there. I still definitely Miami needs more quality depth at cornerback because, I got to say, some of the additions that Miami brought in, like Devontae Brown, didn't have a great season. Jadis Richard has some potential. He didn't play a whole lot this year. I think Damari Brown is going to be an all-world stud, and he played pretty well against Florida State. Miami needs more in their upcoming recruiting class, and they need more in the portal at corner. And trying to think what else. You probably need more stability in the tight end room. I mean, I don't know if Cam McCormick is going to come back for his 47th year of eligibility or not. He could be moving on. We need Elijah Arroyo to stay healthy. I think Riley Williams is going to be really good. We haven't seen a whole lot of Jackson Carver. You do have what's his name from Bishop Gorman coming in. Elijah Lofton is coming in as a true freshman to play tight end, but I think you could probably use more at the tight end room. Running back, unless like a bunch more guys decide to leave, I don't think Miami needs any portal running backs. I think you're in really good shape at that position. Offensive line, you're in pretty good shape because you've got some young guys who are going to be ready to play more, like McCoy, Kinsler. Samson Okunlola is recovering from a season-ending injury, but the Pancake Honcho is going to be really, really good. So you have some young depth at offensive line. I think whether Matt Lee stays or leaves, if Matt Lee decides to leave, then if he decides to go pro, he wouldn't transfer, but if he decides to go pro, then you're going to be in need, I think, of a transfer portal center, but we'll see what happens there. But yeah, guys, I'm going to sign off now only because got 2 more freaking episodes coming up today. This is loaded. Transfer portal season, big off season here on Locked On Canes. Later on today, we're going to have a Truth Teller Tuesday with Bruce Warner. Bruce Warner has been blowing up and I love chatting with him, but ever since that Boston College game, I've had like 10 conversations with Bruce Warner, the Truth Teller. He's going to be joining me today. And then also later on today, we're going to talk with Dave Hyde from the South Florida Sun Sentinel to kind of review what he saw from Miami this season. And I want to talk some historical stuff with Dave Hyde because he co-wrote Jimmy Johnson's book, Swagger. So I want to talk about the Jimmy Johnson era, bring it full circle to what's going on at Miami now. So yes, IMAX, 2 more shows. We're only getting started today. So we'll have the Truth Teller. We'll have Dave Hyde. We'll be on with the Truth Teller as well later today. 2 more episodes. You know what? Hell, if anybody else enters the transfer portal today, we might end up with 3 more episodes, with 4 more episodes. I might just decide later today to hit go live and just stay on all day. So we're only getting started, my friends, today. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll talk to you later on. Make sure to smash that like button. Subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to our channel. Make sure to smash that like button. Yeah, 3D day. Double Donno Day, triple Donno Day, quadruple Donno Day, whatever it is. We will talk to you guys again next time on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.